Hello and welcome back to the Calorie Deficit University podcast. My name is Alexis. Thank you so much for tuning in. Excited to have today's episode. I will tell you, I'm feeling a little sapidly doodly doo, okay? In this episode, and I am going to be talking a little bit off the cuff here. So bear with me. Hopefully there aren't too many long pauses, and hopefully I don't get too in my feels. So let's get right into it. The courage to keep the course. The courage to keep going. And this is kind of, I will tell you, goes far beyond just fitness or weight loss, but it can really apply, of course, to both or to anything. But if you are someone who really struggles, and if you've listened to my podcast long enough, then you would know that I am someone who's in that camp. There's something, I wanted to start off with this kind of story or idea that if you've been in therapy before, or maybe you have a friend that's a therapist, or you're a therapist yourself, there's this no-no that therapists know that if someone is struggling, depressed, going through something, it's really not the best to tell that person, wow, you are really, really strong. You're just so strong. Because what's the immediate response? That person, most likely than not, is going to say, oh, I'm really not that strong, or I don't feel strong, or oh, yeah, you're right, I've had to be strong for everybody else. I don't know if I can keep going. I'm really not that strong at all. Like, that's not the truth. I'm not strong. I'm permeable. See how it's not really a compliment, because you're complimenting that person on surviving whatever they're going through out of necessity, right? Like, strength is, of course, can be a nice quality to have, but that person is surviving whatever they're going through, not necessarily because they are strong, but probably despite it. Like, they aren't being given the choice. It's out of necessity. They are being forced and thrust into having to do these things and survive in a way that they never asked for or wanted to begin with. So if you are going through something, it's okay to not be strong. It's okay to not feel strong. And that's not a requirement of existence. That's not a requirement to achieve anything. You can be soft and gentle and meek and sweet and kind, and you don't have to be strong at all. When you tell someone they're strong or they have to be strong, it's a further invalidation of the things that are happening to them. It's the same thing when someone tells you don't be a victim. I hate that in the fitness in community, like these influencers that are like, you're not a victim, don't be a victim. That's victim mentality. Well, what if you are a victim? What if something bad actually has happened to you? So a better response, something that you should tell your friends, your spouse, your community, anybody that's going through something, and hopefully if you're in therapy, your therapist has told this to you, because it's what has been told to me, so much so that I have it tattooed on my body for eternity, is you're resilient. Yeah, you're fucking resilient. And that's not something that you really work on. It's not something you get better at, but human beings, they always say like kids are so resilient. Okay, human beings are resilient. Human beings put up with so much shit. Like, the human experience is that of resiliency, and life is malleable. You are rubber band, and you can bounce back at whatever pace and strength that you desire. So if no one's told you ever in your life, if you've ever been through something really, really hard, maybe you don't believe it about yourself, but I want you to know that you're resilient. If you're struggling with weight loss, if you're struggling with body image, if you're struggling with a healthy relationship with food, you're resilient. You may not feel like you're strong enough now, and maybe you never will be strong in this area, or in whatever it is that you're struggling with. There are very specific areas in my life that I will probably never have enough strength to deal with it ever, because I am broken. I'm a human being. I don't know that I will ever have the power to face those things or those people ever. But am I resilient? Yeah. Am I going to bounce back? Yeah. I believe that about myself. I believe that about every person that exists on the earth right now. It's just up to you on how much resiliency you want to lean into. How big of a bounce do you want to have? How much bouncing do you want to do? Do you even want to snap that rubber band of resiliency? It's up to you. Do you want to lean in? Do you want to tap into the ability to press on and push forward? We're going to talk about that today, okay? You're already in the feels, already in the sap. I hope so. I hope you feel encouraged already. Hope you feel empowered and happy and glad already. So if you struggle with weight loss, but every day, or whatever the goal is, body image, everybody has something that they're struggling with. And it could be outside of that. We don't have to center, I know it's the Calorie Deficit University, but if there's something that is emotionally holding you back, that can have a huge long-term health impact on yourself. So if there's something that you're struggling with, everybody's struggling with something, I want you to know that if you keep going at it, every day you get up and you decide, you know what, I'm going to keep going anyway. I'm going to try today anyway. If you've ever lived with depression, then you know what this feels like. The inability to get out of bed, to brush your teeth, to brush your hair, to put on deodorant, to feed yourself, to drink water. Like if you have ever struggled before, then you know this struggle of continuing to be a person that decides that they're going to lean into their resiliency. They're going to bounce back a little bit each and every day. That you, despite your struggle, you still keep at it. I want you to know that that is courage. That's determination. That's grit. And you need to acknowledge that. I think a lot of people lean into and believe, because I believe this sometimes about myself, that I'm not disciplined, or that I'm not capable, or that I have deficits, and that I'm lazy and I'm never going to be able to overcome, or that these things that are so big, my feelings that are so big, my depression that is so big, these setbacks in my life that feel so consuming and big, are going to be the thing that keeps me from discipline, that keeps me from achieving my goals. And it can feel drowning. It can feel suffocating and overwhelming. But within that, if you choose anyway to get up, despite all of the bullshit, despite all of the negative, the people who are against you, the isolation, the insecurity, the intimidation, whatever it might be, okay, the self-doubt, you choose to get up anyway. You choose to keep going anyway. That is courage. And that is a form of discipline. And ultimately, hopefully, turns into self-love, that you can rewrite those limiting beliefs. That's what I'm certainly trying to be in the process of, stepping into living in a more positive, abundant, happier mindset and lifestyle, hopefully, and milking that, working that, growing that muscle of discipline, because it is a muscle that you have to practice and choose to be resilient in, to push forward day in and day out. And I will tell you, it can get fucking exhausting. Yeah, it can. And you may have to struggle for way longer than you thought. It might take years. But this feeling of wanting to give up, I think as a society, we've demonized, you want to give up, stop being a bitch, stop being a pussy, you want to give up, get tougher, get harder, you want to give up, you must be a little bitch, it's just this nasty rhetoric of yeah, everybody wants to give up at one point in their life. And if they haven't, lucky them. That's a privilege in and of itself. If you've never, ever, ever wanted to give up ever in your life, you're telling me when you had a hard test, or you were saving for something, trying to go to university and have a full-time job, you're telling me there's never a time that you didn't want to give up because things were too hard. then we just must have a different life. We must have a different timeline. And like this podcast episode's probably not for you. But wanting to give up is part of the human experience. If you were constantly stimulated and motivated to do things all the time, that would probably be a really unfulfilling, unrewarding, really boring life. Wanting to give up, feeling down, hating the journey, hating the process is not a weakness. It's not. It just means that you're probably on the right track. And I want you to sit with that for a minute because that's uncomfortable. It just means that you're probably on the right track. I think, and this is especially for me, that I think when things get hard, that must mean like a sign from the universe that this isn't for me, or that I'm a failure, or that I don't have the skills necessary to push forward to achieve this or to do this. It's often the opposite. If you're facing resistance, if you're facing struggle, or if you think things are hard, it's probably the very path and journey you need to go down for self-improvement, development, growth, even if that thing doesn't come to fruition, right? It's not weakness. It just means that you have to grow. It just means that there's time to change. There's limiting beliefs going on. Like there's something here that you need to get better in. It's not a weakness. It's just a sign. I talk about this with my clients that there are red flags, yellow flags, beige flags, and green flags. And this goes in life. This also goes in fitness. So we'll talk about how different things are different flag types. So, if you're very hungry all the time at the end of the night and your sleep is disrupted, okay, that's a really big yellow flag of like, hey, pause. We're headed in a negative direction here. We need to adjust some things with nutrition and probably volume or intensity of our exercise. Okay. Beige flags are I don't really get a lot of beige flags. I call like beige flags like that little one cookie sweet treat. You only have like 70 calories left of your day. And you're like, dang, there's nothing really cool that I could put in there except for like one Oreo. That's a beige flag. Okay. It's not green. It's not red. It's not really yellow. It just is what it is. Okay. Green flags, of course, are all the fun, amazing, awesome celebratory moments, wins, hooplas, hoorays. Red flags are like when we have negative emotional downpour, dump, downloads. We're feeling really shitty about ourselves. We didn't hit a PR, whatever it might be. We're not achieving our goals. Those are red flags where we need to dig in, address what's going on. But it is not a weakness if you constantly feel like giving up. Now, can it be a yellow flag that maybe your goals are too far ahead for the skill set that you have now? That's a thought. Could it be a yellow flag that you're being too hard on yourself? That's a thought. Could it be a yellow flag that maybe you're just not giving this process enough time? That's a really good thought too. And so don't look at the whole feeling like giving up or feeling like you're down in the dirt and that you have to be extra resilient than normal as a red flag, because it's really not. It's not a red flag. It's also not like happy and fun. So it's not a green flag. It's just a yellow flag saying, hey, maybe some self-reflection, some thought. Why do we feel the way that we feel right now? And how can we improve and build upon it? If you feel like giving up over and over and over again, in anything in life, like this goes well beyond just like your nutrition and your steps. If you just feel like giving up all the fucking time, that's okay. Okay. And you still keep going, I want you to know that's grit, that's guts, that's courage. And that's the rub. That's discipline. I think a lot of people have this mindset or this viewpoint. I certainly did and sometimes do if I don't catch myself, is that discipline is just this thing that people have or they don't have. And if you don't have it, you're lazy. And like people who have discipline just like achieve and do things with ease. And like, you know, they want to go for a run, so they go for a run. They don't really think about it. Or they hate their nutrition, like they hate blueberries and yogurt, but it doesn't matter because they're disciplined. So they eat their blueberries and yogurt and like they tough it up and they just move on. And there's no like emotional attachment there. No. That is not discipline. If anything, the person who lives that lifestyle is just a person who has never really faced anything hard and just lives and acts with privilege. Not a negative thing. It just means that they don't have shit going on in their head like a lot of people do. Most people have limitations, whether they're physical limitations or psychological limitations going on that prevent them from being as consistent and disciplined as they intend to be or would like to be. So as long as you just don't fucking give up, that's discipline. Of course, there can be nuance within there. We can always push ourselves a little bit harder. Like we're designed to want to keep ourselves safe and cozy and comfortable. We know those things. But if you just relentlessly pound the pavement, relentlessly go, relentlessly do, relentlessly, checks and balances of yourself and the action that you're taking, that's discipline. That is success. That is a green flag. That is good. That is what should give you courage to keep and maintain and continue the course. If you keep going, even though you don't know where you're headed, you feel constantly misunderstood, like you don't know where you're going, where you've been, or what the next steps are. You keep going even though you aren't happy with your results. You keep going even though life is super painful. You keep going even though things are just not going how you wanted them to. That is courage. That is discipline. That's a green flag. Keep going that way. Keep pressing into that resiliency. Keep going the course. Acknowledge your courage. Acknowledge your commitment to being so committed to the dumb pounding of the pavement. Even if you're like, I have no idea. I feel dumb. I feel unintelligent. I have no idea what I'm doing. I feel stuck. I feel useless. I feel lazy. I feel helpless, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to do it messy. I'm going to do it mad. I'm going to do it unhappy. I'm going to do it depressed. I'm going to do it no matter what. That is courage. That is discipline. And then if you throw inconsistency into the mix where you keep doing it no matter what consistently, that's discipline. And that is what will get you where you want to go. Know that if you never give up and you keep going, that you're doing the right thing. And I really want you to hear me in this because I had this conversation, like a very similar conversation with a client, and I've had this conversation before with a lot of people, but this is the sweet money spot right here, okay? This is all my chips, all my cards, everything laid out on the table. If I could have a secret supersonic megaphone where I shouted and the entire world heard my line of frequency, this would be the one. This would be it. This would be all that I'd say, because most likely people who experience bad shit, who experience trauma, who overcome, who keep going, all the things, have never heard this in their life. So the majority of people, and do not believe this for themselves. And it is probably the very thing that holds them back from achieving anything they've ever wanted to achieve. This is weight loss. This is, you want to open a business, you want to go to college, like you want to achieve something good in your life. This is the thing that is probably holding you back. And it has taken me a good solid reflection of 6 or 7 years to get to this point, and I'm still having a hard time believing it for myself, okay? Because every traumatized cell, like mitochondrial cell in my body, wants to reject this, but strap up, settle in, close your eyes and hear this. You deserve happiness, You deserve good things, and you deserve love. You deserve compassion. You deserve joy, and you deserve the fruits of your labor. You deserve it. You deserve good things. Again, I want you to sit with that. If that makes you emotional, maybe rewind, pause, hear it again, download that, save it. You deserve really good things. You do. And if your initial reaction to that is, no, I don't. I really don't. You deserve it even more. And I hope that you get a double dose. I really do. Now, if you're a fuck-ass person and you know that deep down and you've done some shitty fucked up things, then maybe you don't deserve it. But that's not up for me to decide. That's up for you to debate and right those wrongs. But even within that, if you've done fuck-ass shit, you can still have good things too. I do believe that. I do believe that, people can be forgiven. People can right their wrongs. And hopefully you'll get that good karma received back to you in return. But throughout this process of actually not having a negative mindset, okay, I'm going to do a whole episode on this, but it's leaning into gratitude, leaning into abundance, leaning into positive mindset is not all woo-woo. It's not all, oh, Alexis, like you're sounding so funky, like a motivational speaker, like blah, 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 blah. It's actually science-backed. So the AMCC, the anterior, and I'm going to fuck this up, anterior mid-cingulate cortex, is an area of the brain that gets specific inputs and outputs from dopamine, serotonin, like your memory. It's like your forebrain for like thinking, planning, strategy. And it is like a muscle. It can be improved upon, it can be strengthened, it can be grown. And it is the area in your brain that is specifically responsible for discipline, for consistency, for belief. It's like the whole point of belief systems. And if you have a very negative life, a very negative mindset where you don't believe that you should have good things, you don't believe good things are going to come to you, you don't believe anything's ever going to work out for you, if you live in this place that like you are so bad, you're so lazy, you live in shame, you're never going to be able to achieve it, then guess what? You won't. You will live into that negative reality and it will become your reality for you, unfortunately, because that is how our brain is designed. It's like I've talked about on the podcast before, negative noticing. If all you do is you negatively notice all the negative things, that is what your brain will get hyper fixated and obsessed on to protect itself as a safety mechanism. Like it would, say, oh my gosh, a tiger, like we need to notice that, like we need to protect ourselves from that. So what you live into, what you play into, how you form and shape your thoughts, how you talk to yourself, your belief systems about yourself actually do determine your daily decisions that you make in your brain. And we know scientifically that you can improve that. You can improve your AMCC by believing a good reality about yourself, by leaning into positive, helpful things. Whatever his name is talked about this on like a podcast, and it was like a 2-second snippet, but it was really fundamental for me that there really in this timeline, in this, Andrew Huberman is who talks about this. If you believe limiting beliefs about yourself, limiting things, and about this universe, you are going to have a really bad time on Earth. If you have gratitude and intention with your life and you're nice, you will be able to immeasurably help yourself get a better outcome in this world, in this life that you get right now. And that at the end of the day, losers are not a requirement of this universe. There's enough room at the table for everyone to have a seat in abundance. And I really like this one is super, I need to drive it home for you, because subconsciously, when we live in a state, it is like, I hate to be this person, but when we live in a state of hyper-consuming, exploitative capitalism, you are told that everything is scarce all the time, from the get-go, from the rip. Everything is scarce. There's not enough. There's not enough. There's not enough money. There's not enough, the food's going to go away, whatever. There's not enough media to consume. Like, there's not enough. You're not pretty enough. You're not good enough. You're not smart enough. There are people that are always going to be better than you. The job isn't good enough. You can achieve more. Like, it doesn't matter. And when you believe that about everything in your life, that there is not enough, that is a sure way to live in endless fight or flight and scarcity about everything. That I'm never going to be enough. I'm never going to achieve. I can't do enough. Like that. Imagine carrying that 1,000-pound sack on your shoulder for eternity. That is misery. Like that is misery. Misery, misery, misery. There's enough. There's enough. Actually, enough. There's actually a plenty. Okay? But the means of production are not controlled by the right people. But within this structure, you are in control of your brain, and that's like the best you got. You're not, for the most part, in control of your zip code, your socioeconomic status. Like, there are a lot of things that you're not in control of, but your brain, how you talk to yourself, how you treat others, you are in control of that. And that's a great place to start, so that you can actually try and achieve and actually succeed at achieving some of your goals instead of trying again. So have a little bit of compassion for yourself. Know and believe that there's enough room and space at the table for you, all your friends' friends, and your friends' friends. Okay? There's enough. Truly, there is. And if you get you're like, but there isn't enough, Alexis, like, there isn't enough money in the world. There isn't enough. Take a beat. Recognize that feeling that you're feeling is a fight or flight reaction that you've felt for a really long time, that there isn't enough. If you continue to lean into that, then yeah, you will absolutely feel and believe like there's not enough money. There's no house big enough. There's no car new enough. Like, you're always going to be hungry. There's never enough food in your belly. Your gym exercise, your workout, it's never enough. You never push yourself hard enough. You don't get the results that you're looking for. You're not skinny enough. You're not pretty enough. You're not well enough. You're not happy. Like, why think those things? Why choose to operate space for those things? If you don't feel like you're skinny enough, let's set some goals. Let's lose weight. Let's do something about it. Let's have action. I live in abundance. I live in a place where my brain is in control. I can change my life on a day-to-day basis. I can take action. There are no losers here. I'm not a loser. I can try and try and try, and I will achieve. I will succeed. There's enough room at the table. Like, I have tools and education at my disposal. I can do this. Huge head shift. Actually heading in the direction where you might just achieve something. The only way you're going to be able to overcome what's hard now and see yourself through is by having a little bit of compassion for yourself and actually leaning into the muscle of resilience so that you can change your limiting mindset to achieve something good, to achieve something great, because you do deserve it. You deserve greatness. You deserve goodness. And whether that might be good things happening to you, or good people around you, or good food in your belly, or whatever it might be, there are a lot of things in your life to be grateful for, to have gratitudes for. And of course, that doesn't negate or, denounce the bad things that have happened to you, or the areas in your life that are lacking, like the loss, the void, the darkness is always going to be there. You just get to decide how much you're going to hyper focus and fixate on it. And you also get to decide how much light and how much goodness and greatness is going to be allowed into your life, your reality, and how much you want to accept and chase and focus on. That's it. That's the episode. Hopefully you feel encouraged, challenged, most definitely, but encouraged that you can keep going. You can keep the course. You can make the course feel a lot lighter if you unburden yourself with the negativity. And again, I want to reiterate, like, I'm a very negative person. Always have been very negative, as like a trauma response, very focused on, like anxiously focused on preventing bad things from happening, again and again. But, bad shit's gonna happen. And same thing, like time is gonna pass anyway. I might as well focus on the good and try to replicate more of the good, because the more that you focus on the bad, the more that will seem to bubble up and replicate in your life. Yeah, that's the message. There is hope. If you feel like you're in a really negative space, I always thought, like, I'm never going to be that positive person. I'm never going to have gratitude. I'm never going to have a better outlook on life. Like, bad things have always happened to me. I have always had really bad things happen to me. There's proof there. Good things never happen to me. I don't attract good things. And guess what? That's how my life was for a very, very, very long time. I did not attract good things because I didn't care to focus on them or give them the time of day. Now, were good things happening to me at the time? Yeah. But I couldn't even feel those good things because I was so focused on the bad. And I think that comes with growing up. Like, I think that comes with maturity and, of course, processing your trauma, actually, and like giving it its space. But if you let it, like, I think about Inside Out as such a great like visualization tool. Think about Inside Out, like if all you did was let anxiety rule you, if all you did was let your past trauma or the darkness or the negativity rule you, that would not be a really fun place for your brain to live. So think about how you can create a dwelling for your brain, for your personality, for your goals that is actually going to be fruitful, that's actually going to be an environment where something good could thrive, and you will find that better, good things happen, and it's easier for you to achieve good things and to make good things happen in your life. Honestly, in a logical sense, because you just have the energy to do more instead of focusing on the negative all the time. So keep going the course. You've got this. Don't give up on yourself. I'd like to say that it gets easier. My mom said that when she was in her 30s, she asked her mom, she was like, when did these like character building moments end? Like, I feel like I've been building my character my whole entire life. And Bubba is what we call my grandmother, my grandmom. She was like, honey, like, I thought the character building stuff would be over, in your 20s, in my 20s, but you build your character for your entire life. My mom always says that to me. She's like, I really hope for you that like your character building moments are over. And it always makes me very tearful because it is painful to constantly feel like you are being torn down. To be resilient is pain. And yeah, my response has always been tearful to her, but in this moment, I'm having a bit of self-realization myself that like, I get to build my character and I have a character to be built on. And that is not a lot. That is not what a lot of people can say. I have a character that, has the potential to be torn down. Like, I have a character. And that's a good thing. I could focus on the negative of like, dang, like these character building exercises do be shitty. Like they do fucking suck. But I have a character to reform. I have a character to be built. And I can focus on that good and my resiliency and how I've stayed the course, decided that I'm not going to give up, even if it's for other people, even if some days is not for myself, but I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to give up, and I'll get there if I get there. And that's the course. And that's courage, that's grit, that's discipline, that's autonomy, that's character, that's resilience. And I think I'm very happy with that. And that's what I hope for you as well. That you could look back at the end of the day and be very happy with the decisions and choices that you've made and not live regretful. Thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate you guys. Hope to catch you in the next one.